conqueror.
Good evening and welcome to another community forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell. Wherever you're listening, on Facebook, channel 18 or YouTube, welcome. My co-host, our co-host, Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Byron. A pleasure to be here again with you, of course. And our listeners and viewers out there, we're happy to come again and for you to give us access to your homes and your living rooms.
Chris, the first thing I want to say is that we have a special guest this evening. We'll be talking about food security, and that's a critical thing.
And nutrition.
And that the region faces, not only Grenada. And so after the break, we'll be meeting our special guest, Stephanie Simpson-Lewis. So we look forward to having her joining us. Chris, the only thing on our mind is, of course, hurricane, Beryl, the devastation, particularly to our sister isle, Carriacou and Petite Martinique. The loss of lives, of course, but the destruction, the devastation took place. How our people are coping, the support they're getting. We could evaluate some of those things. But of course, Chris, also the agricultural impact, the impact that the storm had, particularly in the north of the island. I'm talking about from St. John's onwards in particular. We could review some of those things. But it's no easy time for us, Chris, for Grenada.
Well, we have an experience of Ivan. I think we understand. To me, during the storm is one aspect, one phase.
Yeah. And
the destruction is the aftermath. And how long we take to recover as a people, as a family, as a person. Because you might have a destruction with your property. If you're into agriculture, a lot of your trees maybe have downed and felled. The cleanup is significant. You have to get over that hump first. Cleaning up around your house, assessing what it is. If you're insured, getting assessors to come, and so on. And if you're not, where you're starting. If you're an aged person in your 60s and above, and you didn't have insurance for your property, and you look at your devastation, the question becomes, can I start over? Because some of us take 20 plus years to have a home and to have a structure built. And so lives and livelihood will be seriously challenged, especially for the elderly. And what happens? How do we offer relief? How does family come to the aid of their parents or their grandparents to assist? And where is government and all of that? So it is a difficult time. No minimizing that.
How do we evaluate the response to date? Of course, the first reaction is not just livelihood, but basic necessities: food, shelter, healthcare. And on that, Chris, we could look at it in Carriacou a little closer. I'm to understand that a mobile hospital is functioning. The reports are there's adequate food. The people there are saying, look, all upon the food, we have adequate food. But one of the complaints coming out, speaking to our colleagues in Carriacou, is that there's emergent predialicity taking place. He says that, look, some of my young animals have been taken up and butchered, Concerned about that, he thinks that this is something that the authorities should note. But I understand that we have more regional security personnel going into Carriacou. That's a good thing. Are we still in the relief?
Yes, and I suspect we're going to be there now. I think one of the great challenges now is, apart from electrifying Carriacou, where Carriacou is sending in a set of people and equipment and poles and so on, the issue becomes how and where do people stay? Remember in Grenada when we had our incident with Ivan, we had Cubans and Venezuelans and so on coming in to assist. Trinidadians coming in to assist with cleaning up, putting back on roofs in certain key areas And we even had instances in Grenada when Grenadians were watching at them work, and we ain't doing nothing.
Yes.
I hope we have learned from that in Carriacou. Carriacou is a much smaller footprint, but we can have, I believe, between now and the end of the year, significant improvement in homes and so on. And I think this system allows Carriacou the opportunity to build back better. Because when you hear the reports coming, apart from a lot of wooden structures that was destroyed, even concrete structures were not properly built. The roofs came off because they were not properly bolted in.
You're talking about building codes here.
Yes, yes. And the Prime Minister alluded to it. He said no building is going to happen now in Carriacou and Petit Martinique unless the codes are followed and PPU, or PP, it's not PPU anymore, come and vet that you have a proper plan to build what you have to build and so on. So they protect themselves in the long term.
That's
I mean, I believe...
You think Grenada built back better post-Ivan?
We have. And in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, you could even think about doing concrete roofs.
Yes. Because
that is now a thing in Bermuda. All the structures are concrete roof by law.
Yeah, by law.
By law. You cannot build a structure unless it's a concrete roof you're doing. I mean, concrete roofs make... And I'm not sure it's more expensive than a ply, wooden and sheeting roof versus a concrete roof. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in the crisis that the people and the community in Carriacou will be offered in the rebuild and getting themselves back up.
As you're talking about, Chris, and of course resources, we've been hearing on the news responses in terms of to the crisis. I'm talking here about insurance. For example, this one on the news this evening, the Caribbean Catastrophic Risk Insurance Facility will make payments to Grenada of $44 million. Now, this type of insurance is what is called parametric insurances, yes? It's a non-traditional insurance product that offers pre-specified payout based on trigger events. So the trigger events here would have been the wind speed. So if you have a wind speed at a certain 140 category, it triggers something. If you have excess rainfall, inches, it triggers. So Grenada, this is the largest payout that this insurance, and we inherit this because I don't think St. Vincent has this level of insurance.
Okay.
So Grenada has been, over the years, meeting this payment, which puts us in a position, and it triggers in 12 days. It's verified by a third party. Not the extent of the damage, the extent of the wind speed and those type of things, you understand? So we're in a good position, but if we have, the point I'm making, Chris, if we're going to have all these resources coming in, you have the Canadian support in CEDA and the Europeans, a lot of response is going to come. How do we manage this resources?
Well, and that is the other challenge the government. Let me step back a bit. I think the Prime Minister as Minister for Natural Disasters and his portfolio have done an excellent job. I think the communication has been good. I think the utilities' response to what they're saying in the time that they're saying.
Kudos to Grenada. I mean, we have to compliment those people.
And the activation of the various aspects in a disaster has also been relatively responsive. I think the challenge they're going to face now, when we had Ivan, we had a place called ARD, Agency for Rural Development. And we had a lot of technical people coming in and setting up offices to handle all the things that's going to come in, the monies, how are we going to use it, where are we going to direct it, how are we going to build better, establishing the codes. The codes came from the time of ARD.
That's correct, yes.
Right, and the technical people said we had to put this in law. So there is a lot that, in terms of institutional setup, the government has to now understand what is going to be required to put in place quickly, so that all of these things coming in, monies and in-kind help in terms of personnel and technical people, can be properly deployed. Probably you may have to deploy them from Grenada and have the agency set up in Grenada and then transfer to Carriacou and Petit Martinique. But that is going to be the next challenge, how they handle that.
Absolutely.
And deal with it, because it's going to take quite a doing.
Because you can't count on your existing infrastructure, existing institutions.
We don't have the capacity.
Exactly. That's already burdened. Because I recall even the World Bank report, which was only last month, talked about strengthening existing implementation to meet the demand. So given what's happening now, clearly you need additional institutional capacity, that we say. Could you just look at the agricultural impact of it?
I think we should.
because clearly the reports coming in are saying that the North, and I can give from a personal example, I can tell you that one of the things the ministry did was immediately acquire, because the first is access. The roads need to be cleared, and the ministry, huge purchase, over $200,000, I'm told, of equipment like chainsaws and other tools to immediately assist farmers, and that has begun. I can tell you that from Monday. So we've seen this happening. Additionally, the ministry has put out assessors, loss risk assessors or damage assessors, to begin that assessment, that evaluation of the extent of the damage, putting a value to it, of course, So I'm very pleased about this response.
Again, an excellent response from the
absolutely.
This is Ministry of Agriculture. We have been very critical about them.
Yeah, but this response
has been good.
Absolutely. So the question is the type of damage we see in here, but what the damage, not only in terms of how we move forward, but the implications going forward in terms of the food, particularly tree crops food, like soursop and avocados and golden apples and mangoes. Most of these in the North, they're on the ground. They fell.
Don't forget my favorite one, breadfruit. You understand? They can't forget the breadfruit. I mean, we have a lot of breadfruit trees still within the southern area and Bolio and those areas. But I think the big question for me, Byron, is Ministry of Agriculture is doing a good job to clear and to open back up the land, which is important because if you have to plant, you have to get rid of the debris and the trees that have fallen and give the place the ability to get sun and to grow and to recover. But nutmegs take 7 years to give you a proper corn. Cinnamon takes about 5 years. Clove takes about the same thing to get mature and give you. So there's a 7 year, 0 to 7 years. I mean, breadfruit and pears will come probably quicker, especially grafted pears and so on, and the fruits. But the issue is what happened to these farmers in the next 5 to 7 years in terms of income and where they are. I know NIS have a thing about unemployment income because of this thing, but because of a disaster. But so the issue becomes, how is government going to channel and assist? And then we talk about the roads.
The roads, the access.
The access and so on. So I think a plan needs to be developed because we need to understand which farmers were affected, how severely, and how we're going to help support them if they're replanting. And how they're going to get a livelihood out of, because it's going to take them 5 to 7 years.
Something I want to raise, Chris, that the CARICOM, because there's a task force on agriculture, and President Ali, Guyana, he heads the agriculture and food security. And he's indicated that he's very concerned about the setback Hurricane Beryl would have had, particularly in CARICOM's goal of reducing the food import bill, which is something like $10 billion, by 25% next year. Clearly, he's saying this is a setback. I'm uncertain rather, where we were. And I could talk about Grenada. I don't think we made much progress at all, if any, in terms of reducing that food import bill. In fact, I think it would have been growing. But I think regionally, clearly, Beryl would have been a setback. So he's convening an immediate come together of the task force to address this. But what's also interesting, that CARICOM has allowed Cuba to join the special integrated task force on this issue, that is how the region can reduce its food import bill. So it'd be interesting to see the resources and the strategy that emerges from a regional level.
Our Prime Minister is now chairman.
Yes.
Of CARICOM.
Yes.
So
and that meeting is coming on. Huh?
Yes, it is. And he did indicate that a task force, including himself and Prime Minister Motley and a few of them, are coming together to look at disaster relief generally for the area and the hurricane season. But the President of Ghana did indicate that this is going to be significant. So it's going to be interesting to hear what it is they're proposing, because it's not just about production, as I say, it's how we supporting farmers to live whilst they're trying to get stuff to go back. So this is going to be interesting. Is Guyana going to be supporting us with imports of fresh produce, pineapples and all of these things?
They can feed the region.
Exactly.
They have the land space.
And then if you're doing that, what is the transport mechanism, costs, what it is that is happening? Just as how regionally we do, we come together to reduce the price of drugs and medication coming into the region, we probably have to consider doing that. But
that's at the OECS level, huh?
Yeah. But that we need it in the OECS more than anywhere else. I'm being partial,
Chris, of course, we have limited time. We have a special guest, but one thing, Chris, I'm informed, reliable informed, heard it from the Prime Minister, that Carnival Spice Mass is on. There were some doubts about it. No, but it's official, it's on?
Yes. If St. Vincent is doing their carnival, which I think started on the 28th of June and is finished this weekend, just around there, they did a reduced part of the carnival. But Prime Minister indicated, we go full throttle ahead because we have August, we're in July. I mean, obviously, Petit Martinique and Carriacou can't join the full throttle. But from a Grenada perspective, all our tourism plants in the south have been not damaged and in full operation.
And that's important, eh?
And that's important. The country needs to make money as well.
Yes.
So I can understand from his perspective, but for some people in the north, it's going to be a reduced. Apologies.
I asked you that question last week, Chris. You didn't answer it. What's the political fallout from an event like Beryl?
Well, we're hearing a lot of things coming out of Carriacou. And so some of them you're not sure what's the truth, if it's rumor, what is happening. But you're hearing a lot of people talk about the issue of, some are not getting relief as they expect. In some parts of Carriacou, you're hearing that some of the politics is interplaying in who getting priority over others. Again, in every disaster situation, you will have those things. Carriacou is small and Petit Martinique, and they are more family-oriented communities. So we will hope that these issues, if they're happening, is really minimal.
But are the politicians coming together? It means the opposition, the government, are they coming together? I saw something on Facebook where NNP has been delivering food, and are they working in unity in this?
I saw some of the posts by Pastor Devan Rashid, which was a little bit disappointing. In that his organization, Trades Religious Community, have been bringing in plane loads and organizing helicopter drop-off to Petit Martinique and so on. And then one of his posts indicated that, he's getting interference from the politicians in what happens and how it's happening. That is sad because they have the hospital, the mobile hospital, they have desal plants, mobile desal plants that is up and running.
It seems that the government at one time tried to coordinate everything through NAGMA or something, of course I understand that has been opened, if you have relatives.
It has to, because think about how much barrels going to come in between now and December. You can't run that through NAGMA. The government had to come up with a policy very quickly on what's happening.
Good reason, good sense prevailed,
I mean, remember, this government is young people, and first time they're facing a disaster of this magnitude. So they will make mistakes. I'm not making excuses, but they will make mistakes.
That's how you learn.
That's how you learn. So the issue is, let us see and how quickly they recover from certain things, and take it, one day at a time.
But clearly, what we want to see is the country working together. That includes
obviously,
all and some.
They shouldn't have no politics in disaster.
Precisely.
How are we supposed to see these people?
We want to bring relief to people. We want a sustainable situation going forward.
Absolutely.
Chris, that's all the time we have because, of course, we have our special guest, Stephanie Simpson, to join us. Food security, food, nutrition. Viewers, stay with us. We'll be right back.
A carnival pulse is coming. Yes, you heard it. Carnival Pulse, a vibrant live broadcast event that captures the heart and soul of Grenada's Carnival. July 29th to August 9th at the Esplanade and Bruce Street Mall. Stay tuned for more information on Carnival Pulse, a production of MTV and Fusion FM in collaboration with Grenville Property Corporation Limited. This carnival will be pulsating.
Blast Gaming presents its biggest jackpot ever. Blast Mystery Progressive. I'm so excited, I can't hide it. The new Blast jackpot rising, and I like it. It going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up and up and up and up.
Play selected games to win in the Blast Mystery Progressive. Pick until you match 3 gems and win one of the 5 cash jackpots. Or you can blast up with the Mystery Progressive jackpot.
It's going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up. Blast Gaming.
Welcome back, viewers, to Community Forum. As we indicated a little earlier this evening, our guest in studio with us is none other than Stephanie Simpson, who has been a nutritionist for many years and have worked with the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council for 14 plus years. So we believe she is well qualified, and she comes with us with a BSc in Home Economics and, most interestingly, a Master's in Community Nutrition. So this evening we want to have a discussion around nutrition, what it is we need to pay attention to in the foods that we eat, what kind of mix in terms of carbohydrates, protein and starches and so on. And of course, talk about what is happening now with Beryl and the situation in Caribou and Petit Martinique. They're getting tons of food coming in, a lot of canned stuff, a lot of different kind of things. Do they need to understand what they need to mix in order that they still maintain their health? Because eating healthy is, of course, maintaining your health as they face challenges with mosquitoes and all of that. So we're going to be touching nutrition this evening in its many facets. And we hope that will lend to help in terms of the knowledge you have outside this. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Community Forum.
Yeah.
Let me start off with nutrition among our youths and for Carnival coming up. I know you are a Carnival patron as well. You enjoy a certain part of Carnival.
I do.
So, we have a lot of young people that Prime Minister said Carnival is full swing coming for August. We have a lot of visitors coming in, they won't come to help. But we have a huge consumption of alcohol around Carnival time, particularly among our youths, our male and female. If you had to recommend how we energize our body to pay Carnival, what we feed it, not only drink it, what not we put in liquid, but what do we do to ensure that they maintain a healthy time during Carnival and after Carnival? Because after Carnival, you hear about a lot of different flus and different things and diseases coming in and knock us down. So from your level and years of experience, what would you say to our young people that want to partake and not abuse it?
I mean, I would say partake in Carnival. Enjoy the festivities, but be mindful of the choices that you make in terms of alcohol consumption and the types of food. You know, most young people about what I should eat and if I should eat healthy or how much I should drink. I mean, I wouldn't say all of them, but quite a number of them do not pay attention to that. So it's important to make the right choices. So in terms of the alcohol consumption, you want to limit that, because if you're a young person, a teenager growing, it can affect your growth and development. If you're a much older person, you know, it hampers your cognitive, how you think and what your reaction time. So hence we say don't drink and drive, because it does affect that. It also affects your
inhibition. It lets down your inhibition. So you find all sorts of activities happening and things that people would normally not do if they're not under the influence of alcohol and carnival, they would do. Just, getting drunk. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't. And then there's some others who, when they drink excessively, what we say, misbehave. So it takes away your judgment and making good decisions as compared to when it's not carnival and when you're not drinking.
What we see happening around carnival too is a lot of outlets selling food, fast foods, a lot of fries and fried chicken and so on. A lot of oils going into the system, a lot of barbecue of many things. So the issue for me is, around that time, you're not time to stay home and cook oil down or whatever. You're coming outside and you're looking to fit and drink and you're eating all of these processed or unprocessed food to some degree on the side of the road. Is it something that we will recommend, or would you tell them to exercise caution? Because too much fried foods going into the system could be very...
It would be to exercise caution, because the amount of fried foods you eat is the amount of oil that you consume. And one of the things with the oil is that, the oil is not changed. So you would cook, the persons would fry today in the oil, and tomorrow they fry in the same oil. So you might be eating chicken and it tastes like fish because of the oil. And then you have certain products in the oil that breaks down because of the
oil
heat.
Is essentially acids going into your stomach.
And then once that happens, then it affects you in terms of your general health, in terms of your cholesterol. Young people don't think about that, but you want to limit the fry. Sometimes that's what is available, and when you're hungry, that's what you choose. But there are other times you find someone may have a corn soup or something else to offer you that, you look for that instead of just the fried chicken and French fries, and especially that chicken wings, excessive amount of fat from the chicken plus from the oil that it absorbs. So it's just making understanding what's available and making the choice. Don't just gravitate to whatever is there.
Cook home and fill your belly before you go down the road.
That's it. You eat a good meal before you leave the house, and then when you get out there, you're really not hungry. But also, eating a substantial food helps the alcohol to not be absorbed into your bloodstream as fast. So you need to coat that stomach with some fig and yam and dasheen and that type of food that sits there for a while, and the alcohol is not quickly absorbed.
I didn't mention in the introduction that you're also a farmer. You have a farm, Sean Farms, where Stephanie does a lot of vegetables in terms of greens and leaves and salads and so on.
My retirement project.
So I should have mentioned that, because that is also an important part of nutrition.
Yes. And you seldom find that type of food like vegetables and salad or selling around the carnival time. It's a lot of quick food. You throw it in the oil and boom, a big pot of soup is a better choice, or roast corn or something.
You're looking at me, Chris. Stephanie, I wanna move back from where Chris was and look at the bigger picture. Here's the picture. That we have a huge food import bill right now.
Yes.
And I can tell you the numbers. The average from 2010 to 2021 is about $77 million US. That's 207 million East Arabian dollars. Yeah. A big part of it, almost 15% of it, is processed foods. 10% of it is chicken. We don't know how long the chicken's been there, but the processed food in particular. And that's contributing to our main diseases in the Caribbean, also in Grenada. The non-commutable diseases. And I'm telling you that heart diseases, cancer, stroke, diabetes, obesity on the rise. We have a problem. Clearly, it's killing us.
We do.
How do you assess the policies guiding this? I mean, you believe the authorities are aware of this, of what is happening, and what action you know about it that's been taken, but what is your recommendations on this?
Well, the food import bill is something that has been looked at over the years. And I think there's a food and nutrition security policy that would have addressed that, I think, in 2013. But a lot of the recommendations that were made for that policy, I have not seen it being implemented. So hence the reason you find we have this, it's going up every year. And as you said, it's more processed food that we're importing. And as you said, it leads to more non-communicable diseases. You know, so it's something that it will take a government and administration some really hard work to do to get that implemented, because one of the things you realize is that years ago we ate local. I mean, we ate a lot of the provision and we ate a lot of local food. We ate chicken, you know, but we ate local chicken. But now we have a bigger population to feed, and our production is not meeting the standard.
But in that population where you have 25% of your population absolute poverty, and that's the stats that's available right now, can this quarter of your population is challenged here, poverty? How do they eat the right foods? Where is it available for them to ensure adequate nutrition?
But that is difficult, because if you don't have the income, what you notice is that processed food is always cheaper than unprocessed food. And if you're in poverty and where you can afford, you have just a specific amount to feed a family for the month, then you have to utilize that and buy the foods that you can afford. So for instance, macaroni and corned beef and flour, right? These are inexpensive food to use. And you tell someone, hey, well, buy some carrots, local carrots. That's more expensive. You get imported carrots made much cheaper than the local carrots. So you have this thing where the imported foods are cheaper, and there are people who purchase it. Now, something has to change somewhere along the line so that our local food, local grown food, can be affordable for the people who are that poverty line.
It's a big word, backyard gardening. But Steph, the other thing is that we just had a hurricane, a disaster, Carriacou. We see a lot of food going up to Carriacou. But what local food sources are rich in essential nutrients can be used as a relief in such situation? How do you ensure nutrition in such a situation, like what's happening right now?
It's difficult. It's difficult because the food needs refrigeration, and without electricity you have no refrigeration. So the foods that provide you the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals, you won't get it now. You have to. This is a time where you would be depleted because it's just not available. You know, you can't bring in 100 bags of callaloo and let's say 1,000, right? And where are you going to store it? You know, so it is a time where we have to understand that specific foods that have a long shelf life would be utilized at this time. It will provide, one of the things, one of the bag I think was distributed, it had onion, sugar, condensed milk, sardine, tuna, macaroni, spaghetti, rice, flour. Now so
there's some limitation in an emergency, you're saying. But the question therefore is what long-term strategies can be adapted to ensure sustained nutrition security?
But before you go there, Steph, I want to interject on something, because I think part of the problem that Byron mentioned about the health issues with NCDs is that excessive use of salt and sugar.
Right.
So my question to you is, can we design a plate of food, even in an emergency situation as we have, where we limit the intake of sugar and salt? And I listened to this bag of thing you just called out there. We have a set of starch, which is sugar. We have sugar, sweet condensed milk, and so on. So is it that we could come up with a plate that we could recommend to people in a crisis, as we have up there, with the processed foods that they have? Corned beef is extremely salty. Pasta didn't have a lot of salt, but there was add salt.
Corned beef is salty.
So I mean, what is it that we could recommend? I mean, I hear you with the vegetables and the refrigeration, but ground provisions, as an example, as a starch, yam and dashin and so on. you don't need to store that in refrigeration, but you need to control the quantum.
Yes.
And that fills your belly faster than say eating pasta and rice and so on. So is there a plate we could recommend and say, listen, you could have 2 slices of dashi, 2 slices of sweet potato, a carrot and whatever.
Looking for balance.
And some protein.
So
whether it's fish or whatever. Not stealing.
But we can look at it in 2 ways, right? We have in Karakou where you have this disaster, and they're getting this bag of food that's high in salt, high in sugar. Okay, for them, let's say a plate, and I also saw a can of peas and carrots, right? So you have the peas and carrots, you have the corned beef, and you have the rice, and you have the flour. You can make dumplings to go with the corned beef. Now, to reduce the salt in it, you may want to put hot water in it and then let it take out some of the salt and discard it. And then you can also drain the water from the peas and carrot and mix that in with the corned beef. And you serve that, you can serve it over the macaroni or the rice or, one of the things. So within Karakou and Petit Martinique, where they're having this quantity and they have no access to anything else, you can utilize the foods in that bag in ways that would help you reduce the amount of salt and the amount of fat in it.
Starch or
Exactly.
excessive with salt and sugar and so on.
I'm not sure provision get in there now
So
or
do
anything
you
like
see
that.
a role for food and nutrition to come up with ideas on plates that they could recommend in a crisis situation? Even though we have all this food coming in, and the guy said on the video they don't need food, and you could fish still, you could, the boats that are viable, and get protein in a different form. But is there a way, vegetarians don't eat meat and they get a lot of protein. So do we need to encourage more peas?
But one of the things too was, in that bag was peas. You had lentils and you had split peas. So you can make a soup. You can make lentils and rice and that sort of thing. So I mentioned the plate for Karakou and Petit Martinique and for persons who have access to that sort of food. But then you have others who will have access to everything. So when you have a plate now, you want to cut back on the fat and the salt and the sugar, and mainly the processed food, because that's where you find a lot of the salt, and then in preparation is where you find a lot of the fat. So you have a lovely piece of chicken and a piece of fish, and then you douse it in oil instead of maybe grilling it or baking it. But you want to add vegetables. Vegetables are very important. Just vegetables, half of your plate should be vegetables. Vegetables and very small part.
As a community nutrition specialist, because clearly that's your area, the question is, how can community-based programs support nutrition security and educate on healthy eating habits?
Well, I would say
what kind of programs?
The Grenada Food and Nutrition Council has a grasp on that, and they, over the years they have done an excellent job in terms of healthy eating. There's a food-based dietary guidelines.
What's the impact of that?
Well, the impact, I tell you what, the council work and the other, they have nutrition officers in the community, and there is an impact in terms of, individual counseling to persons, but it is difficult. It's this task of helping people to understand their eating habits and making healthy choices. It's difficult when you look at the television and everything that you see in the commercial is some ultra processed food, and you're coming up against that, and that is millions of billions of dollars. So that you don't stop the working, you continue, but the impact takes much longer and a lot more work.
But supply, I was at a market today, I couldn't get cassava. Cassava is a wholesome food. You could tell us about cassava and so many ways of preparing.
Of course.
And it's not available.
One of the things is it has to take a concerted effort by the Ministry of Agriculture to get into cassava planting. Have persons that you have it available, but we have a stigma about cassava, and it's still passed on where cassava could kill you. That is still in communities, because that then you didn't eat cassava. You made farine with it and you made other things, but you made starch, but you didn't eat it. But we have the sweet cassava that you can eat, and it is so versatile. You can substitute it for the potatoes that we import. The texture, the flavor. You can make salad, cassava pie, you could make cassava bread, you could roast cassava like you would roast potato. You can make porridge with
But do we understand that the problems or the diseases that the NCDs create, that there's a cost to that? You know, it's more costly to treat these ailments than to ensure it doesn't happen from the beginning by having the proper food.
You mentioned about in terms of poverty level.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big part of it, because again, the foods that the people can afford are the foods that contributed. So it's fighting a battle, and it's education.
Yeah.
But you know, you cannot tell someone, well, hey, you need to buy carrots and callaloo and cabbage and sweet potato and green bananas and that sort of thing, when it is more expensive than to buy a pound of the imported potato and a pound of chicken wings and that sort of thing.
I'm going to challenge that, because I hear the poverty argument and I accept it to some degree. But I have cassava grown in a 45-gallon drum home by me. Sweet cassava. Stick a few sticks down into it and it's growing, and I will reap it. I'm waiting for it to get big and fibrous. I'm reaping it nice and young, nice and soft, so as what Stephanie's saying, we could do many dishes with it. So what does it take for a poor person to have a few half drums or whatever drums with soil in it to plant even cabbage, even sweet potato, sweet peppers and so on, and yams and cassava and so on? I don't know that requires any big investment.
It doesn't. It
doesn't. It requires some time and some paying attention to what you eat and what you want to eat, healthy, and so on. So I hear the subsidizing of the processed foods and making it cheaper for our people, so they tend to that faster. You know, I have heard over the years that people in Guelph will, I suppose they have so much fish, they don't bother with fish and they go for processed chicken, fast food chicken, or the fish.
They sell the fish and buy chicken.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just an idea of how we think and how we have been culturalized to believe that all local thing that we could grow and do is not good compared to these things.
Yeah. But one of the things I remember, the Ministry of Agriculture, and there are other non-governmental organizations that, you know, we have backyard garden. I know ECA worked on that and getting people involved in backyard gardening and doing little things for themselves. And there's some people who take to it, but we just have some segments of the population that just don't take to that. But, you know, it's something that we need to encourage still, you know, to plant, you know, some sweet potato in a bucket, or plant a fig, and you know, you get one fig plant, green fig plant, and you put it down, and in a few years you have many more. So it's.
But you need you need advocacy on this. You need information, education. You know, it's.
Yeah, but Byron, your point.
Byron, it's out there. Byron, it's out there.
But we're not doing enough. It's not having the impact.
Obese among our children, we're dying in the 20s with all kind of diseases and so on.
Let me tell you, you mentioned obesity. We have, I mean, in Grenada, we have you know, 30% of females, that's the stats, obese compared to 15% male. So we have a higher proportion of female obese compared to male. But we have a problem. Clearly, it's an issue that has to be addressed, because down the line, it's costing the individuals quality of life and cost to the state.
We didn't talk about exercise as part of nutrition.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we didn't. And you know, I mean.
Yeah, you know, obesity stats now.
Yeah.
You mean to talk about that?
Exercise is important. It is important not only for obesity. So even though you're not obese, you need to exercise. It's part of healthy living.
Yeah.
You know, and I know we focus in on NCDs and food import bill and stuff like that. But in terms of general eating, you know, we want to encourage people to eat healthy, so that message goes to everyone, whether you're eating, your budget is $100 a month or $1,000 a month. Healthy eating is for everyone, and you want to encourage the persons who may have $100 for groceries to how to spend that money to make sure that they have a meal that's balanced and that's nutritious. You know, and I think that is the focus. But in addition to the eating, is the exercise of our population to be healthy, exercise and, general get sufficient sleep at night, manage your stress, that sort of thing. It's a sort of a holistic approach, just don't talk, talk about eating healthy and the food and stuff. Yes, that is part of it. And some of us, if we do the other things, it may get us to a healthier part, in healthy eating at some point.
I want to introduce a thing here for nutrition, and that is teas. The use of tea. Mm-hmm. We have grown up, our grandparents drinking a lot of tea, whether it's yellow black sage, whether it's cinnamon tea.
Bush tea.
Bush tea,
right.
As we say. We have moved away from that. We do a lot of coffee. We drink a lot of coffee in various types and lattes and this and that and so on. But is there a nutritional aspect and benefit? The Chinese believe in tea. They will drink all kind of tea whilst they're working and keep their energy levels up. Is there a need for us to relook some of our teas that we drink? We have soursop tea, we have sorrel tea, combinations of them and mixtures. Yeah. Is this something we should advocate for our young people and general population, that tea should be an integral part of your nutrition intake?
It could be part, based on, what properties are in the tea that is beneficial to you as an individual. Because there are certain compounds in tea, so for instance, green tea, that is said that helps you in terms of reducing inflammation, that sort of thing. So there are some teas, but the local tea that we are accustomed drinking, or we have here, I'm not talking about the imported tea, and we don't know. We drink black sage. You said you like 3 leaves of black sage. If you're making tea, soursop, lime bud, that sort of thing, and it's something that we grew up drinking, but we don't know specifically. We don't know specifically what's in the leaf of the tea and what benefits we're getting from it, and the dosage. And as you talked about guava, there's so much things on the web, WhatsApp, Facebook. Drink this tea, drink that tea, drink that tea, and the people who are putting them out, we're not asking, well, what are the benefits of drinking it? They tell you the benefits, yes, but did someone do research to say this is what you're going to get from it? And people jump on that bandwagon. I just want to let people be mindful of drinking every tea that someone suggests.
Moringa is a big one.
Yeah, moringa is a big one, and you hear all of the benefits.
Is that more mythology? Or
that's the thing. You remember noni?
Yes.
Noni was, where is noni now? Yeah. And we had noni growing in Grenada.
Yeah.
We have it still, before the big thing came out. So yes, a lot of things come out as a bandwagon.
It's a fad.
Yes, a fad. And everybody jump on it.
Yeah. So we is a big thing because it's cancer fighting properties.
But we drank soursop and we ate soursop as part of our thing. So I would say what we are accustomed doing, do it, and anything that someone suggests, be mindful of it. Before you just jump in and get into it.
Okay.
But tea is an integral part. I believe that you have some benefits to it.
We have a whole side of
anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory.
On this issue, we have to take a short break. Okay, we'll be right back. Viewers, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Bank on a bright future with Co-op Bank as we celebrate more than 50 years of partnership with Grenadians. Fund your summer plans with a new Visa credit card and get 5,000 bonus reward points on approval. Or you can get discounted interest rates with financing of up to $50,000 unsecured. With Co-op Bank, you have a future you can bank on. Apply today. Special terms and conditions apply. Welcome home.
A Carnival Pulse is coming. Yes, you heard it. Carnival Pulse, a vibrant live broadcast event that captures the heart and soul of Grenada's Carnival. July 29th to August 9th at the Esplanade and Bruce Street Mall. Stay tuned for more information on Carnival Pulse, a production of MTV and Fusion FM in collaboration with Grenville Property Corporation Limited. This carnival will be pulsating.
Welcome back to a Community Forum. Our special guest this evening is Stephanie Simpson, and we are talking food securities, nutrition security. But Stephanie, you see, I'm even confusing. Tell us the difference between food security and nutrition security. What's the difference here? Explain this to us quickly.
If I remember correctly, food security is having sufficient need to meet your needs.
Yeah.
Right?
Calories, you're counting calories, like?
It's not so much calories, it's having sufficient food, the literal food. But then within that food, you have to meet your nutritional needs, which would be the vitamins and the minerals and protein and carbohydrates and fat.
Okay, that's
from
fine.
That point.
The Center for Policy Development is based in Trinidad. It's a regional non-governmental organization. They've come up with some recommendations to deal with food and nutrition security. I'd just like to point out 2 or 3 of those recommendations. I'd like you to respond to them, please. Yeah. One, they're saying there should be a more focused policy action to increase domestic food production. In other words, we need to increase more food production. Secondly, we should have a managed food import policy. I'll give you an example of that. We see supermarkets selling imported oranges and other citruses when it's at our peak. That's the other one. The other one is to reduce the high food import bill by incentivizing domestic food production. In other words, a motivation, give policy, supported policy to aid in food production. How do you respond to this to deal with the nutrition issue? So a more focused policy to increase local food production. In other words, we need to increase food production. And also, the 2 critical, we need to manage the food import policy. In other words, how it is now, it's probably free for all. In other words, we need to control what's coming in.
We do need to control what's coming in. But what you find is that the hotels are given permission to import foods to meet their
special palette for the guests.
For their guest needs.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have now a lot of foreigners living and they want certain foods to meet their demand.
Like a new supermarket that just opened. I mean, like, I've seen things that I've never seen in Grenada supermarkets before, Chris.
Yeah, well. Again, as Stephanie saying, people have particular needs
and you have wants. That, but it could be managed. And certain foods, for instance, if we know we have that, and we can have farmers to produce this food to meet the demands of the hotel and of the population, then yes, if the farmers can produce it, then you can have.
We have a thing about from the farm to the table, and hotels is a big thing for them, farm to the table.
Yes, it is a big thing for them, but there's some things they buy from the farmers and a lot of the other things that they import.
So chicken, let's take chicken. Yeah. We've been talking about chicken for 20 plus years, and nothing has happened with chicken in Grenada in terms of reducing the import bill. Why? Because we have Brazil and these countries who subsidize their chicken farmers.
Barbados is self-sufficient.
And you mentioned subsidies.
Yes.
And cuts the price significantly per pound.
Yeah.
And they can sell it first cheap.
Exactly. And that is where Stephanie was talking about the poverty and the choice and so on between chicken wings and chicken back. I mean, back and neck in Grenada is a big thing for people still. And the amount of fat that has been back and neck.
The government can, I mean, it's something that goes hand in hand. Having production here locally increase and having
reduction of what you import, so you do it in phases, but we're talking that 20 years ago.
And there was this proposal 10 years ago to have, as you said, Guyana could be the breadbasket. There was a proposal to have food produced in Guyana for the region. And have it been shipped to the different islands and therefore reducing the import bill. I think is that coming into, is that something still on the table?
That is what President Ali was talking about, and the 25% reduction in the regional food import bill.
And the point of that was to increase food security in the region.
That's right.
That was one of the proposals.
But it started quite in the 80s, Chris. I remember, I recall going to Guyana, actually, in the early 80s. This was a big project. It was financed by Trinidad. Oil was then to cultivate, but this is the interior of Guyana. I mean, thousands of acres. The problem is we saw all the machineries was there. We were doing an assessment evaluation for the Caribbean Development Bank, who was one of the financiers here. Millions of dollars in machineries parked. But the problem was personnel. No one wanted to go into the interior to work.
Not now.
It's changed. This is
but
40
Guyana,
years ago.
Some of the largest pineapples and pears and other things that they produce out of Guyana is phenomenal.
But they have the land.
Yeah, and the thing is, why we can't get this going in our region? And that is, I mean, Trinidad imports a lot of the pineapples and so on from Guyana.
Yeah.
And why we can't extend it up to the problem is transport.
Trinidad, we import from Trinidad a lot of processed foods also. A lot of processed foods.
And we have to just be mindful of what we do and how we do it because the processed foods doesn't have...
But we're talking about processed food. You said processed food. But it is a conscious decision by us as individuals to not choose the processed food.
Convenience?
It is a conscious decision to say, well, okay, it's easy to empty a packet of macaroni into a pot and boil it for 7 minutes than it is to peel a breadfruit and boil it.
Yeah, but we have a thing
the thing is, if we could make that conscious decision to choose the breadfruit over the thing, it puts us in a better place. Because certain foods we have sufficient, like breadfruit, but others that people are accustomed eating, we just don't have the supply to meet the demand.
There's a thing now that sells in the shops. I forget the name of it. It comes pasta flavored with either chicken or flavored with
ramen noodles.
Ramen.
Yeah.
No.
That is killer. That's a killer.
Yes.
That's a killer.
And there's a processed
starch and salt.
And starch and salt and some flavorings.
Yeah, and some flavorings.
That
you don't know how much
you
don't know how much flavor enhancers they have there.
But the other part is what you can do. You can take that, not use the packet, but cook the pasta and add other stuff to it, the noodles, and add other stuff to it to make it tastier, but not necessarily pack it with the artificial chicken flavor and the MSG and the sodium and salt in addition and other stabilizers and stuff like that.
If you had to recommend, it is about personal choice.
It is.
And it is about economics as well.
It is.
Because
but within the economics, you have to make the choice.
Yeah, and you know, based on our lifestyle now, both parties working or single mothers, they don't have time to cook and to do a proper meal. So that impacts.
Well, that's a question. Do we still have nutrition education in schools?
I know some schools have home economics, and in secondary school they have nutrition, but it's not nutrition that teaches you. Well, you have to gather from what is being taught the information to use personally, but it's more geared to exam.
And is there a role for technology to increase that local domestic food production? Is there a role for technology here?
You mean to utilize technology to well, we have to determine how much the production, what we import. For instance, I know we import sweet potato from St. Vincent. You know, I mean, it could be determined how much pounds of sweet potato is required.
Well, Jamaica exports yellow yam in a big way. They will say the 100-meter runner was eating yellow yam and what kind of test on yellow yam. But here's a crop that Jamaica does in thousands of pounds and export by container loads. I'm not saying we have we don't have the land space, but things like that we could encourage at the local level. 2 bed, 2 half a drum with yellow yam, white yam, sweet potato.
We also need to make farming more chic. You know, that okay.
Sexy?
Sexy. And that hey, you farm, you can afford to buy a Mercedes-Benz in 5 years. You know, you choose a specific crop and you work on that crop and you get your customers, and you know, within 5 years you can.
The point you're making, it can be profitable.
Yes.
Demonstrate that.
Let me say this to you. Since I have started Sean Farm, I said that I wish I knew the capability of farming or what I can do in farming before I retired. I would have done it before, but then you know what you know now, because this is when you need to know it. So I would encourage persons to lease a piece of land close somewhere and find a specific crop It's not everybody planting cucumber and okra and all at the same time, and then you go to the market and it's $1. Broccoli and cauliflower being imported. Cabbage is being incorporated big way. These are things that people eat and people like, and locals love it. So you go to one of the supermarkets and you get a little thing like that for $12.
It's true.
You know, we do not grow the one that's huge, that's what you get imported, but I have seen some excellent quality cauliflower and broccoli, and you can make money from being a farmer. So maybe make it more sexy. Show the young you can have your motorbike, or you can have your whatever vehicle that you like, and
your pickup truck,
and that is one way of maybe
But
helping
again, Steph,
increase food
bringing the
production.
technology, let's take broccoli and cauliflower. If you grow that in a greenhouse, you could control the environment, do it proper, and get the big ones that we see imported.
Yes, but that
And
greenhouse
nutrition.
thing is very costly.
Expensive.
Very costly.
I mean, but I mean,
Some
at the end of the
farmers
day, to
do.
make it sexy, you have to bring it to the young people
But-
who can integrate science into the thing.
And the funny thing about it, farmers back then, they toiled the soil. Young people don't want to do
That's
that.
right.
They don't want to go there
bring the
and
technology.
fork the land and thing. They want technology to thing. And if that is done. I mean, I know of young men in the 20s farming acres of land of watermelon and seasoning peppers and things like that. And they're doing well, very well.
It's true.
You know?
Tomatoes.
And then you can have what you call annual crops, or mangoes, oranges, whatever.
French
And
cashew,
you don't
my
have to be
favorite.
do short crop.
Yeah.
So it is a lot to us helping to reduce that food import bill and providing more nutritious food for our population.
As
It
well
could
as
be
nutrition
done.
security.
Nutrition security,
And the
food
key
security.
thing, you know, how do we reach the community? How do we mobilize the community? How do we
Schools.
advocate? How do you demonstrate? Because these are practical things too. And I want to compliment the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. They have done a lot of work, Chris. They have done.
And continue to do.
They have reached out to communities to do the
They
physical
have a fair
demonstration.
that's doing a show where they
They-
cook various things in various forms. That's very nice.
They have produced recipes in popular forms.
Of local foods.
Local foods, local
Yes,
foods.
local foods.
But it seems that we are not reaching a sufficient base of the population.
Because as
for-
Steph
for-
indicated, billions are spent in marketing on the highly processed fast food area.
Listen, it's a giant, food and nutrition and other nutrition organizations in the Caribbean and around the world, and even in those big countries that they're facing when you have these ultra processed foods being marketed. I mean, I sat and I looked at the television and I looked at the amount of commercial, and I didn't see a commercial for carrots. And telling you how healthy it is, but everything you saw was something that was processed. And I just want to give us a short explanation of process.
Please.
If you get, for instance, corn, you pick the corn, it comes in the husk, you eat it. That's not processed. You take it from the husk, you break it up, you freeze it. That's one stage. You take the kernels off, you process it, you put it in a can. It's another stage. You take the kernels, you add sodium, MSG, stabilizers, and all of that. That's another process. So you're going from that corn, the ear of corn, to cream of corn soup, and that is the process chain. That's just one item. And then you have these foods that you don't know what it's made from. Because when you read the ingredient
Do we read
list-
labels? Do we read labels? I was in the supermarket and I looked at that. I saw no one reading labels, Chris.
People don't read labels. And
But
I
the
say this
biggest-
to you,
The biggest processed food, sorry, Steph, is flour.
flour is
And we
one of
consume
them.
huge
Yeah.
amounts
And
of
then
flour.
that flour now is then processed, and you add
Vitamin
cheese
D,
flavor.
this,
You
all kind
add, no,
of
you
thing.
add cheese flavor. You add onion flavor. You add, and it's not onion. It's onion flavor. So somebody in a lab added a flavor of onion, and then you have compounds in those ultra processed food
Emulsifiers and all
where
sorts of stuff.
when you taste one, you want another one, and when you finish one packet, you need another packet. It's it's geared specifically at your mind and your taste buds so that you're always eating. So you can sit down and eat 6 bags of this chip and not realize it. Right. And you're thinking, oh, I like it.
Steph,
it's not that you like it.
I'm out of time in 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
What's the final advice you have for our people on the question of food nutrition? Bottom line.
Bottom line, eat local, one. Eat more vegetables than anything else. You do need meat or protein, but actually you do not need meat.
You do not need food. You said vegetables.
Yes, vegetables, and vegetables is the first one.
Okay.
Right. You do eat fruits. You have fruits, but not as much as the vegetables. You use a lot of herbs and spices. Water is critical. Drink water. Hydration, excellent for the body digestive system. If you don't like the taste of plain water, put whatever you want in it, right? Herbs and spices. We have a lot of local what we call local seasoning. Mm-hmm. Use it instead of the little packet of something that's imported. You don't know how long it's been there. Mm-hmm. Exercise. And exercise means it's a specific thing that you do for a specific amount of days for a specific time. It's not, oh, I just walk on the road. That's nothing. And reduce your stress levels. It's not part of healthy eating, but it's part of healthy living. Reduce your stress levels. How? Breathe. And even exercise can help you in terms of reducing. Get a good night's rest. And I want to recommend meditation. And the last one is you can go vegan. Makes a big difference in controlling almost everything, any medical issue that you may have, it can help.
But it could be expensive.
Thank you.
No, I'm stubborn. It's not expensive. It's cheaper.
And the final thing I want to say to Chris, how many barrels we can pick up tomorrow from Sis in Spain to give to the community?
I gave away more than 100 barrels just before Ivan and so forth.
Yeah.
Later I say, we have barrels all the time.
Okay, fine.
You can cut in half, either vertically or horizontally.
Viewers, that's all the time we have. We thank you for being with us. We'll see you next week at the same time. Have a good week. Bye-bye.